Yes, I do wanted to, Mr. Harris, I'm glad that you waited around. I want to answer your question to the best of my ability. Hope you don't mind if I call you Steve, as we're chatting here. I want to discuss, and I need a couple minutes, so bear with me on this, because this was a very complicated situation. When initially, I want to try to get this, I want this to be clear, because I thought I've said this, but I want to try to make sure that I'm being clear on this. Initially, during the September invoice that when we received from Gary C. Johnson, the $22,000 bill, the very large bill, that invoice only had conversations with me, other board members, whatever. It had no description of what the topic was. I never saw the invoice until it went and passed through the treasurer's office. And then when I got it at a board meeting, yes, I was alarmed. $22,000, all it says is conversation with me, conversation with whomever. Yes, I was alarmed. And I did say, I want to know more about what the content is versus who is on it. Now, I even instructed Mrs. Clickinger to send over an example from the previous attorney, Gary C. Johnson. I said, I want to see something like this. So I said, send this over to Gary C. Johnson because I want to see an itemization. I want to see an itemization. So I believe the treasurer's office redacted a couple of things, sent over a page or two. This is the type of format that I wanted to see because, like I said, I was very appalled. And I said to Jack Petronelli, the attorney, I said, I want you to send this to me because I want to see this. I don't want to be the last person to see this. So on October 6th, for the September invoice, on October 6th, what happened is, actually it was October 7th, Jack Petronelli has his administrative assistant send me an email, one invoice, to my private email account. Now, Gary C. Johnson died on September 29th or the 30th, one of those 2 days. He died. It is what it is. He was the only principal of the firm. This administrative assistant, who I've never talked to, never met, don't know who this person is, sends me this invoice to my personal email account. How did they get it? I really don't know, to be honest with you. They may have got it from me in July when I met with the attorneys because we were looking around for new attorneys in July. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know my Cuyahoga Heights email off the top of my head. And on August 1st, on Saturday, August 1st, we did a conversion from, I want to say, Outlook to Gmail. And I met with the attorneys back in July, the new attorneys that we have before we contracted. I could see very well where I gave Jack my personal email. Anyways, so this email comes to me, my private account. Don't see it. Joy Clickinger sends me an email on Monday, October 19th. And she says, I'm sorry, on Sunday, October 18th, she sends me an email and says, hi Tim, please see attached. Is this okay to pay? Please advise. What happened is a cover sheet, just the top sheet, without any detail, was sent to Mrs. Clickinger. So she sends me this email. I respond on Monday the 19th. This is on Cuyahoga Heights email, public document. Thanks, Joy, I haven't gotten any detail. Let them know we need more detail. I see no itemization, just a total amount. If I get something, I'll let you know. Joy turns around and sends something to Jack Petronelli. Jack turns around, takes this email that this administrative assistant sent to my original account, forwards it, exact same invoice, to my Cuyahoga Heights account on, it looks like, the 20th. Yes, on Tuesday, October 20th. Jack Petronelli turns around, talks to his administrator, said, resends it, forwards it to my Cuyahoga Heights email account, and says, you should have received this email on October 7th. I respond to Jack, thanks, Jack. I apologize for not seeing this on my other account. I will authorize payment to Joy. This is clearly documented in two different emails. He turned around and sent the exact same invoice that was originally sent to my private email account to my Cuyahoga Heights account. Meanwhile, keep in mind this is October 20th. Gary C. Johnson died on the 29th or the 30th. He was the only partner in the firm. The firm dissolves. Jack Petronelli leaves there and goes to Eric Allen and Associates, our new law firm. So they didn't get paid. Partially because I didn't know I got this thing. I sat on this thing for a couple weeks, didn't know I got this thing. Well, Eric Allen decides, because they didn't get payment, now Gary C. Johnson is in, I don't know what the legal term is, if it's in escrow or whatever, the firm dissolved, anything that's going to the estate at this particular point. He turns around and he has Jack Petronelli recreate from his notes the same invoice. He recreates it from his notes because this old so-called software system that they used under Gary C. Johnson isn't there. The administrative assistant who was there, she's quit, she's gone. He has to go into his book and he has to recreate the invoice. Every dollar amount is the exact same. The total invoice from the very first invoice on the October 6th original invoice was for $86.62.50, and every dollar amount that makes up that is the exact same that Eric Allen created on new letterhead, his detail. Now, because Jack Petronelli is recreating this from his notes, the descriptions are not exactly identical word for word, but every dollar amount is. Once again, the same dollar amounts on the far right. This total is $86.62.50, the exact same dollar amount. This is invoice number 2. So he sends this on Eric Allen, wanting to get paid to Eric Allen because, once again, Gary C. Johnson is now defunct. Well, rightfully so. Now this detailed invoice doesn't match the original cover sheet of Gary C. Johnson. So Mrs. Clickinger points out that, wait a second here, I've got an itemization on one letterhead and I got a summary on Gary C. Johnson letterhead, because that's what she originally got. I can't pay this. This will be caught by the auditors. They'll say, I'm paying a different firm. So what ends up happening is Eric Allen, he takes this invoice that was created by Jack Petronelli, and he does a cut and paste. And he takes this, and he cuts and pastes this on old Gary C. Johnson letterhead that he digs up so that this itemized form matches the summary sheet. This third version is identical word for word as the second version, except the letterhead is different. Once again, the total is $86.62.50. Every dollar amount among these three is the same. Now, when this one went out, this final number 3 invoice went out, I don't know, but every dollar amount is the same. That is the scenario of 3 invoices. Now, feel free to call Mr. Basala up and ask him about this. You know, I mean, I don't care if an auditor sees this. This is what it is. It's ugly that the guy died and he was the only principal. But this is the so-called 3 invoices that we so-called changed or doctored up. I did not create any invoice. So I'd be more than happy to show these to you. I mean, I don't know on here what is, you know, confidential or whatever, but these are, like I said, you could talk to Mr. Basala. Mr. Evans has had all these. He's had these. So these are all and have been in the treasurer's office.
It's not true.
No.
They've all been there since at least November. All of them have been there since at least November.
Maybe November, but they weren't there when they should have.
Okay, I didn't interrupt you. Okay.
But you're lying.
Okay.
So-
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not lying. I didn't. They've all been there since November. They've all been there since November. So now, if somebody has a challenge, you know, with this, and by the way, you're free
I
to
do.
call.
When was the
You can
public
call-
records
you can
request
call- You
made?
can call and.
When was the
hold on
public
a
records
second.
request made? In the midst of
Wait a
all
second, I'm
this?
talking. I didn't interrupt you.
Interesting.
You talk about professionalism. You talk about professionalism. Yet
You're telling,
I don't-
you're
I don't
lying.
interrupt you. I don't
You're
interrupt
not
you.
being truthful and honest.
And when you're being dishonest, I don't interrupt you, I let you speak.
Please do.
No, because I'm not gonna
I'm
get
not
into a
being
yelling argument.
dishonest. I'm not being dishonest, that's the problem, that's the difference
That-
between you and I.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure. And this so-called being blindsided that you talk about, you're the one who blindsides. You could have came to me, I didn't know what these 200 emails were. The first I even heard about these things was at a board meeting. I didn't even know what you were talking
Did you
about.
check your private email?
Those were not board business emails.
That's
Those
where
were
we
not board
disagree.
business emails. And if you want to.
Attorney bill is board business.
If you want to, at this particular point, just turn this over to whatever authority you want, because I just told you what this is. All right, so, and I'll be more than happy, once again, Steve, I appreciate your comment. I'll be more than happy to show you this stuff, so you can see some of this with your own eyes.
I'd be careful though, Dr. Thacker said that itemization page is all covered under
Okay,
client
thank
attorney,
you.
so we don't need another putting us
Okay,
at
well, I'll
risk
put
for
my
litigation.
hand over certain parts.
Excuse
Okay.
me, if you're going to reference me, I did not say that. Actually, Superintendent Evans gave me a copy of Dawson, a Supreme Court decision from 2011. But actually, the most updated law, which is one reason we need lawyers, is Vermillion, 2012. So please do not speak on my behalf,
Okay.
because you don't know what you're talking about.
All right, anyways, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Edelman, and thanks for chairing the Treasurer's Search Committee. Much appreciated.
And be
Mr.
highly
Zuchak.